Welcome. Today we will be fitting a canopy to a Ssangyong Musso. The first thing you will need to do is remove the packaging. Please keep 1 to 2 meters of banding to the side. This will be used to help later on. When removing the packaging, do take extra care to not damage the canopy underneath. The next job will be to stick the foam seal around the base of the canopy, making sure not to cover the drain hole. The foam is found in the fitting box provided. This is how it should look. Now the base seal is fitted, you will need to move the canopy off its pallet and onto stands. This will allow you to finally remove the rest of the packaging. The next job is to prepare the Musso for the canopy. The first thing to do is clean the rear glass. Once completed, you'll need to seal the front corners of the bed with silicone. This will minimize the chance of any water ingress. It's also important that you clean the front bulkhead glass on the canopy, as you won't be able to reach it once the canopy is fitted. With 4 people at each corner, you will need to lift the canopy carefully onto the Musso. Please note the canopy should never be lifted by the rear glass. It's now time to prepare your clamps. You should have 6 in the fitting box. Firstly, remove the cap nut, and then ensure the rubber is orientated as shown, with the flat section facing out. Moving to the inside of the canopy, please cut the zip ties holding the loom to the top. You may also need to remove the zip tie shown in the video. When fitting the clamps to the Musso, please ensure the clamps are sat in the 3rd groove. Please note, the clamps shouldn't be over-tightened and should be equally spaced out as shown in the video. Once the clamps are fitted correctly, you'll need to refit the cap nuts. It's time to remove the rear light. You will need a 10mm socket. Once you've removed the bolts, the light should pull away from the body, which will allow you to disconnect the plug. Next step is to remove the bed liner's fixings behind the near side rear light. Now it's time to disconnect the bullet connectors on the central locking loom. Once removed, using a piece of the banding from earlier, it's time to feed the banding through from the bed into the rear light mount location. Once the banding is fed through, using electrical tape, please secure the central locking loom and the breaker light loom to the banding to be pulled through. Top tip: have someone hold the liner back while feeding the cables through. This is how it should look. You will have wires for the central locking, heated screen and rear brake light. Remove the banding from the wires, and it's now time to refit the liner, making sure not to damage the canopy's loom. Our next job is to remove the wheel arch lining. You will need to remove the bolts being pointed out in the video. This will give you access to the rear of the fuel filler flap. Please note that the rear mud flap will need to be removed to allow the arch liner to be removed. With the wheel arch removed, the next step is to connect the central locking and heated rear screen wiring to the canopy's loom. The heated screen wiring will be found in the fitting box. Finally, you'll need to feed the heated screen and central locking wiring into the wheel arch as shown. With the wheel arch liner removed and the loom fed through, your next step will be to remove the plug being shown in the video, which is found behind the fuel filler flap. Then connect the canopy's piggyback loom and reconnect the plug. If the canopy locks when trying to unlock, you will need to switch the polarity using the bullet connectors. Once central locking is connected, we move our attention to the heated screen loom. This will need to run to the front of the vehicle via the chassis leg and held on with zip ties. The wire should be secured as shown in the video. Please note to be aware of not crimping the brake lines when running down the chassis leg. The heated screen loom will need to be fed up into the engine bay once secured to the chassis. Once in the engine bay, the loom should be run neatly around towards the fuse box located on the near side. Remove the fuse box cover before connecting. The sheath will need to be shortened. Once shortened, locate the fuse used for the heated mirrors as shown in the video. You will need to remove the fuse and fit the piggyback loom. Please note that the 10 amp micro fuse that comes on the vehicle doesn't fit in the piggyback loom and will need to be replaced with a 10 amp mini fuse. The 10 amp mini fuse can be found in the fitting box. Once the piggyback is fitted, refit the lid to the fuse box and then we move to earthing. The black earth wire needs to be routed and connected to the bolt shown on the right hand side. Now moving to the back of the Musso. It's time to connect the loom to the rear light via the plug. Once connected, refit the light and secure it with the 10mm bolts. Once bolted in, it's time to clean the rest of the windows. This requires removing the QC sticker and polishing the rear and sides too. Before we finish, we have latch adjustment to complete. You'll need a Phillips screwdriver and a 10mm socket. Latch adjustment is an important step that should not be avoided. You can see that one of the latches isn't catching. This is due to the rod connecting between the handle and the latch being too short. The way we remedy this is by disconnecting the rod from the handle and rotating anti-clockwise. What this does is lengthen the rod, which takes the tension off the latch and allows it to set. If you rotate the rod too many times, you'll find that the latch sets, but the handle won't release it. The offside latch is not releasing. To remedy this, you will need to shorten the connecting rod. This is achieved by rotating the rod clockwise. Top tip: 1 turn at a time is recommended, because if you over-shorten the rod, you'll find the latch won't catch. We can see the fitter putting a screwdriver in the latch. He's applying pressure to make sure it's holding correctly. If the latch were to undo under the pressure, it would be a sign of the rod being too short or that the latch was faulty. Now we can see the potential issue of these nuts being overly tight. They should allow the rods to move freely. Once both latches are catching and releasing as they should, make sure to fine-tune the system so the latches release, not only at the same time, but also when the handle is 1/2 to 2/3 way through its travel. Now the latches are working as they should. Before we start reinstalling the inner cover, you need to make sure there are no wires fouling the rods. Please note, it's important to make sure the bolts holding the hinges and gas struts are done up tight. Now to fit in the tailgate protection tape. This step requires soapy water to be used to get the desired effect. You'll need to spray the rear tailgate with the mixture before applying the tape. Don't be shy with the spray, as too little will make this step harder. Once soaked, carefully apply the tape supplied in the fitting box, making sure to apply it straight. This may take a couple of attempts. Once applied, You will need to use a soft-edged card or squeegee. This is used to squeeze excess water and bubbles out from under the tape. Once the tape is fitted, that's a wrap. Thank you for your time.